How did your appearance come about?
So they had somehow, I think, just found my website or had seen some YouTube videos I had put online. And the producers had sent me an email saying, like, hey, do you have anything that you can submit? And mind you, this was in the middle of the 2020 pandemic. So I did not have any current footage recorded or anything like that at the time. But I had this clip that I had filmed previously at a Magic Underground open mic. And I had this footage of this trick that I was just working on for my stage show. And it was this idea that I had with this textbook that would get ripped up. And at the time, I was really like transitioning into doing college shows, which I do a lot of now. And so I had written this whole piece about when I was in college and I had bought these overpriced textbooks. And again, it just came from that point of honesty. It came from a point of like, this was literally something that happened. And I had these textbooks and I was like, this is a routine that I'll be able to do. And my friend had come up with this idea for this trick with a book. And I was like, this presentation fits perfectly. So that just came together on its own and was something I was workshopping and I had just gotten footage of for the sake of reviewing. And so when the call or when the email came in, I was like, well, I'll submit a few things and I guess we'll see how it goes and maybe they'll like one. And right away they emailed back and they were like, that book thing, can you do that? That was amazing. Like, we want that. And so then the conversation started of like, all right, like, how do we rewrite the script a little bit? What can we do? We went back and forth methodologically. And I talked to a bunch of different magicians to get ready for it. My friend Chris Luke, again, had a huge part in writing out the jokes for that and helping come up with like just funny things to say and fun bits to do. And so over time, it was just something that I was playing with to do in my stage show that ended up evolving into that full Fool Us piece off of a single email and an opportunity that went the right direction. And filming that was very interesting. That was a trip. That was wild. Yeah.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that experience. That's fascinating, I think.
Yeah. Well, so their hotel is it the Rio? Is that the one that
Yep,
they do?
that's
Yeah.
it.
So they were at the Rio. So they brought us all to the Rio, but this is again middle of 2020 pandemic. So everything in Vegas is shut down right now, which means this hotel is empty for the first time. And I think they had said like 25 years. And so they had security posted in, I don't know if I can say this, they had security posted inside of the hotel. And they were like, no filming inside of the hotel, no videos inside of the hotel, because they didn't want any footage of that place empty ever. Like that was like their number one rule. So the entire time of being there, it felt like I was inside of that movie, The Shining, where you're in that really like long, empty hotel hallways. Sure. Nobody was around these massive corridors, you know what I mean? Like, and you're the only one there. But at the same time, what was really cool is it kind of felt like this weird little summer camp at the time, because like it was my first time leaving Minnesota since everything had shut down. So I had just gotten to go and hang out with a bunch of these magicians that were also filming. So my friend Cameron Braxton was filming, the magician Michael Feldman was filming at the same time. So that was a fun little thing of being kind of like, oh, like let's sit down and actually like hang out. But then on top of the social aspect of it, the actual filming of the episode, there was no audience. And so it was a very different kind of view than what other people had experienced before, because they would go on and they would do like a full Penn and Teller show, basically, of like, here are the Fool Us performers, and the audience would come in and see that show. This was completely different. It was very stripped down, of course, because of the pandemic, everyone was masked and we had to have things set up like spatial wise differently. But that was a really interesting time as well, because it was very cool in the sense of like how personal it felt with Penn and Teller and Allison being there. But then at the same time, it felt very eerie because you're just looking at this screen of like faces behind them. And I couldn't like, you don't get that same audience-based energy of like, are they liking this? Are they not liking this? Is this going well? And at one point during my performance, the match that I used, because I burned this textbook in that, I put it into a bin and I burn it, the match wouldn't light. And thanks again to the magic of TV, they actually like just edited it to me. I lit the match eventually and I just lit the entire matchbook and put it in. But like for another 7 minutes on stage, there was wind above because they had the fans on to keep everything like the air circulating in the room more. And so they were laughing and Teller's like, no, you just got to light the entire matchbook. And Penn is like, you were such a good kid, you can't even light matches. And I was like, it's the wind. And Allison is there, like at first very worried about these matches and the lighter fluid that I just put inside of the bin. And now she's laughing because these matches aren't lighting. And then at one point they edit all of this out, but she takes the matchbook and she's trying to light the matches, and they're going out for her too. And I was almost like, are they going to leave that in? Like, what's that going to look like? And Penn was just laughing the entire time. Like, it was ridiculous. So there were a lot of little moments that got edited out that, again, felt very different, I think, than your traditional filming of the show or taping of the show. But it also made it, I think, such a memorable and unique experience from, I think, what a lot of people have ever had to film with in general, because it was just so strange. But again, it was very fun too. Like, it was a very fun time.
It certainly unique in our discussions with people who have appeared on that show.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't realize that they went through, because of the pandemic, a season where there was nobody in the audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't
yeah,
realize that.
yeah. And so their laughs are real. They were laughing quite a bit to, I think, make the performers a lot more comfortable, and I think make it feel more lively in there. But yeah, like that's kind of the strange thing about it too, is that it was a lot of not being able to get that same feedback that you're used to, especially because, as you guys know, that's such a beautiful stage. Like, it's designed for magic. It's designed for them. They had a backdrop up for me and everything. And then you're sitting there and you still see the seats behind them. So you know that you're in a theater, but it's just empty, you know? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you did walk away with what every performer on that show really wants, other than to fool them, which is great tape of
Yes.
you performing. What has been the impact of that appearance?
So it's funny. I think a lot of people can use or capitalize on those appearances in different ways. And for me, I didn't really go into it with any sort of direct plan. Again, like, I'm not always the most like future focused person. I'm just kind of like this, I'll live in the moment. We'll see how things go. We'll see how things pan out. And so doing it, I was like, all right, let's just see how this goes. Like, let me just get on. I had written in a journal in January of 2020 that one of my goals was to get on national TV. Like, I was like, okay, I think that something that would be valuable in my career would be figuring out a way to get some sort of national TV appearance. And so when the email came in, I was like, oh, maybe this is it. And so, one, I think having that TV credit now has been something that's been good for booking shows. And then on top of that, nobody really knows this one, but after that had happened, me and another friend of mine had gotten contacted by America's Got Talent to do the last previous season that they just had. We ended up not doing it because it was so many logistical things, flying out there and getting everything ready for it. But like, that opportunity came from doing that show. But the biggest thing was just in the aspect of promotion and having, like you said, the really good footage from that, and having the proof of concept of like, well, look, if anyone wants to see what I do, here's a little segment of it that you can go and watch.
You were kind enough to kind of give us some thoughts about what people could do if they wanted to get into magic. What are your thoughts about this? Any tips about auditioning for Fool Us if a magician is listening and thinking, I'd like to do that? Any thoughts on that, Noah?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing I could give, the biggest advice I could give would be figure out something. This kind of ties in with what I was saying earlier, but figure out something that you want to say, or something that conveys your perspective and has some sort of story or character behind it, as opposed to just a really strong trick. And I think that if you are happy with what you say and you're happy with like what you're trying to convey, I think you'll be a lot happier with the clip or the segment afterwards as well, because it's so much more unique to you. When you really think about what you're showcasing on that show, you're trying to showcase yourself more than the magic that you do. And maybe that's just a personal aspect of it. Maybe that's just my own idea. But I think that having that sort of story device is what really keeps people engaged, more than just having the good material or the good tricks. So convey who you are.